good evening, and welcome to our 10th edition of Teen Sports Chatter. Thank you guys for helping us make it to 10 episodes. I don't really know why you guys watch us, but I'm very thankful for that every day. So yes, it's Super Bowl week. It is February 2nd right now. Super Bowl's on February 7th. We're here in the Bay Area, the home of Super Bowl Mania, and so we're going to be talking a lot about that. And in the NBA, we're just past the midway point of the season, so we'll be doing midway awards and talk about the next half of the season. So with that, we're going to start with the Super Bowl. On my right, I have Joao Alma and Josh Bain. On my left, I have Ethan Christensen and Jake Chuagazani making his season debut on Teen Sports Chatter. Episode 10, it's a big episode. So let's dive right into it. So let's talk about the two Super Bowl teams. We have Carolina and Denver. Carolina is 15-1. Denver is 12-4. Both won their playoff games. Obviously, they're in the Super Bowl. Let's start it off with who's had the harder road to the Super Bowl?
Well, I definitely think that Carolina's had the harder road to the Super Bowl because Denver got to play a Pittsburgh team without its starting quarterback.
He played, but he was injured
quarterback.
Without the running back, with a bad defense.
Without two running backs, without their best wide receiver,
Right.
arguably one of the best players in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then they played a Patriots team who was kind of falling apart.
And their
at that
offensive
point.
line
was just
ugly.
awful.
Terrible.
So.
Yeah.
So I think Carolina.
Yeah, definitely Carolina. I think it's less of Denver having an easy schedule, but more of Carolina having a hard schedule. And also, Carolina made it look easy.
Yeah, they absolutely blew out Arizona, made Seattle. It was what, 31-0, 24-0 in the first half. Yeah. What about you guys?
I also had Carolina. I thought that Carolina played the two best other teams in the NFC in order to get to the Super Bowl. Seattle was I thought it was one of the hottest teams in the NFL coming into the playoffs, and I even thought Arizona could give either of the AFC teams trouble in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think Carolina really earned their spot in the Super Bowl.
And I know us four on the same page. What about you? Why do you think Denver?
So I personally thought Denver had the hardest road to the Super Bowl.
And also, before we go on, he's a Pats fan, so we have four pretty biased Patriots fans here, so that may prove a little. And one depressed Ravens fan. All right, continue biased
you don't want to talk
Patriots
about
fan.
it?
I'm sure.
So in my opinion, Denver beat two Hall of Fame quarterbacks and a Patriots team that I think was the best team in the NFL, even with the injuries.
Yeah.
I think Carolina beat a Seattle team that wasn't quite as good this year as it has been in previous years. And also an Arizona team that was sort of limping into the playoffs and limped past Green Bay.
Yeah, Arizona was definitely kind of slipping up towards the end, and I think Seattle didn't really have a chance to get their feet wet, get into
Carson
the game.
Palmer kind of squeaked his way
Yeah,
past that. That was a little
Against Green Bay.
Yeah, that was a little. He had some
Yeah,
issues there.
And so throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season, who do you guys think is the most important and most impressive player on the roster? I know a lot of you will say Cam Newton, but is there any other player on Carolina or on Denver besides the quarterbacks? I know Denver in that case doesn't, but in Carolina, has it been anyone other than Cam Newton?
Oh, definitely Von Miller for the Broncos.
Yeah.
I think he's been huge. I mean, against the Patriots, he had 2.5 sacks and an interception. I mean, that's ridiculous. He just manhandled that offensive line.
Yeah.
And DeMarcus Ware also had 7 hits on Tom Brady. So that combination, especially come the playoffs, it's tough. You can't take away one without leaving the other unguarded.
Sure.
You have a lot of other guys on that defense.
Yeah, it really causes a lot of trouble because if you double team Von Miller, you got DeMarcus Ware.
And still, they couldn't even stop him with the double team.
Yeah, I know.
Run around.
It was so frustrating. His first step is faster than I've ever seen in the NFL.
Yeah, well, on Carolina, other than Cam Newton, I think Ted Ginn was actually very impressive. He, did a little flashback this season, made some huge plays. He was pretty much a human highlight reel from most of the season.
Yeah, just with those long vertical.
Yeah, so
When did he drop it?
Yeah. Oh, he did drop it. Yeah. So yeah, Carolina would run up. Cam Newton would run out a little, and then that would open up the game for Ted Ginn to just fly. And even Philly Brown changed his name to Corey Brown. Yeah. What about you guys?
For the Broncos, I also had Von Miller because I think kind of as he goes, you see the Denver defense go. Because if he can get that first step in and really attack the quarterback, you notice the quarterback starts making a lot of mistakes, and that makes Talib's job a lot easier. Chris Harris' job is a lot easier. But for the Panthers, I'll say Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
I think Greg Olsen has been the safety blanket for Cam Newton all season long.
He hasn't really
without
had
Kevin Benjamin.
Yeah. Besides Ted Ginn, who's hurt a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been Greg Olsen.
Yeah,
all year,
Olsen
I
really
think.
opens up the field for Cam and his passing game.
Yeah. What about you?
I agree with most of the people you said for the Broncos. I think you can't forget some of the people in the secondary, like Chris Harris and Bradley Roby. Those guys.
Bradley
Roby.
guys
I
performed
think
very
Bradley
well.
Roby, I think, is the
been
best
impressive.
third corner in the best slot corner in the NFL.
For Carolina, I think that Luke Kuechly has actually been
Yeah.
their best
Yeah.
player of the
He's
season.
the commander. He's the
Yes.
Cam Newton of the defense,
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah,
so to speak.
exactly.
He always leads the NFL in tackling, I feel like. So, yeah, that's big. And who are your important players to watch coming into the Super Bowl?
Well, I think Kuechly playing against Manning will be a fun game. Watching like the mind against
Chess match.
mind,
Yeah, it's gonna be a
the
chess
chess
match.
match.
Yeah, the two
Although
commanders.
some might say that Kuechly is more in the prime of his career than Manning. And then I mean definitely Cam, because the entire offense in Carolina is
It's
dependent
a
on him
juggernaut offense. It's one
Yeah.
man army.
because of him.
Yeah.
He controls the running. He controls the passing. He
Passing.
controls
It's,
everything.
it's all on
Yeah.
him. It's all on him. He's been doing a great job
Yeah,
of it through the whole
definitely.
season.
Yeah. My X factor is actually Michael Orr.
Ooh.
Because
Because is he playing Von Miller?
Yeah, he's either
that's
playing
huge.
Von Miller or DeMarcus Ware. And
yeah.
obviously, we just talked about how big those two guys
Yeah,
were.
sure.
And Michael Orr has been having an amazing season, so I think that's going to be a very important matchup to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I got I don't have a particular player. I've got the Denver front four.
Okay.
I
Against
think
Carolina.
Against
kinda,
Carolina,
yeah.
I think in terms of an X factor, like if Denver is gonna win this game, it's gonna be all about how they control. They have to basically control where Cam Newton goes. Like
Yeah.
they have to. They can't let him
Scramble
scramble
around.
around and make
Yeah.
plays like he's been doing all year to just about every team in
Yeah,
the NFL.
and I think one of the main reasons they beat Seattle because they somewhat limited Russell Wilson in doing that. So I think that was kind of the key reason. And I definitely think that they need to do that in the Super Bowl to kind of contain Cam Newton.
So I feel the biggest X factor will be Von Miller.
Yeah.
Obviously, his pass rushing ability, except he won't be able to just pin down and blitz Cam Newton like he did Brady. He'll have to
Yeah.
play contain. He'll have
Cam
to make
Newton can
tackles.
actually,
and
you know,
also-
Has to make
move,
tackles
he
in
can-
space
yeah.
and see how.
And Cam Newton's a big man, dude.
He
It's
is.
hard to
He's like
it's
6'5" or
it's
something.
hard to
Yeah.
tackle. It's like a LeBron James type athlete.
And sometimes when you pressure Cam Newton, it actually turns out like to hurt
he
you
can
because
fire the
if
ball.
if you open up the field for him and you're playing great cover defense, he can run. He's capable of running for 40
And
or 50
also,
yards.
I think
like
when defenses bring blitzes, I actually think his pass radar is higher than when he's just
Yeah.
standing with time.
it'll
we
be
have to get
it'll
to
be
him
interesting
on
to see
four
the
man, yeah.
defensive scheme.
Yeah. And do you guys have big X factors or matchups to watch, one-on-one matchups to watch in the game?
I think Carolina's second and third corners because I mean obviously they have Josh Norman who's a great player and
yeah.
he'll probably cover Demaryius Thomas for
Yeah.
most of the game.
Yeah.
But the Broncos still have Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
And Carolina's lost at second and third corners and they've been exposed
Yeah.
late in the season. So you've got to watch them because I think Manning's just gonna throw the ball at them and
Yeah.
hope Emmanuel Sanders can get some yards after catch on him.
Yeah, and I know I was talking to you, and you said, what, Demaryius has received for like
Only 56 yards or something like that.
in the
and
whole
Yeah.
playoff.
All the
And so
playoffs.
Josh Norman, the thing is, like, if you're scheming for Carolina, he hasn't been a factor. So would you even put Josh Norman on him?
I don't think Josh Norman has the speed to cover
Like
Emmanuel
Emmanuel Sanders,
Sanders,
yeah.
so I think it makes sense to keep him on Demaryius
And
Thomas.
And I
Demaryius,
would
yeah.
still put Josh Norman on Demaryius Thomas just because
Yeah,
he hasn't
They
played well
match up
doesn't
also.
It's a
does-
Super
doesn't-
Bowl.
yeah.
Demaryius Thomas
doesn't
is a
mean
superstar.
and also
He
doesn't
is,
mean
very
that
true.
Demaryius Thomas isn't the biggest threat on Denver's
Yeah,
offense.
I definitely think he is.
My matchup is actually Keith Talib or Chris Harris, whichever one guards him. Ted Ginn.
Yeah.
He's a guy I talked about earlier. Very explosive. He can give Carolina, if Carolina is starting to struggle against that strong Denver defense, Ted Ginn, I think, is going to be the guy that really gives him that punch to wake up. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like,
Especially if they can't establish a run game against
Yeah.
the front seven of Denver. I definitely think it's going to be a big issue. It's who's Cam Newton going to throw to. I know Greg Olsen will have a tough time with either safety or some of the linebackers who, as they showed against New England, can really cover,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's big. And then, in my opinion, a big X factor is actually Thomas Davis. He's a great linebacker, gets a lot of
All
tackles.
pro first team.
He has a broken arm, right?
Yeah.
So,
He
and
plans
he's
to
still
play.
planning to
Yeah.
play. And so,
So is
also,
Jared Allen,
the
actually.
reason Luke Kuechly is so good is because he has other great linebackers around him.
Yeah.
So if one of them can perform at a high level, that puts even more pressure on the play caller and the quarterback of the defense. So I definitely think that's a big X factor.
Yeah, my big X factor is see how Jonathan Stewart does against Denver's front seven. I know I keep talking about Denver's front seven, but I really think that how they play is going to dictate how the game comes out.
And how they've played has dictated the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think if Carolina can run, and if Jonathan Stewart can run for first downs, like if he can get them first and 10s, Denver defense is going to be in for a long day
Yeah.
between Jonathan Stewart and Cam
Cam
Newton.
Newton, yeah. What about you?
So my biggest X factor, kind of like Josh, is the Panthers receivers versus the Broncos secondary.
Yeah.
While the Panthers receivers aren't great necessarily. They're very good at keeping the play alive and getting open as Cam Newton runs around.
And they're good at what they do,
Yeah.
which is not having to do as much
Exactly.
as like a normal receiving core, right? They just get open and Cam Newton will find them.
Carolina has the #1 rushing attack in the NFL,
Yeah.
so you know they're going to get their rushing yards. They
Yeah.
they ran against Seattle. They've run against good defenses.
Yeah.
So the question is whether they'll get explosive plays in the passing game.
Yeah, I definitely think the run game for Carolina is crucial because if you look at the game against Seattle, Cam Newton threw for 161 yards. Like, he didn't throw for that much to beat them. It was Jonathan Stewart with 2 long runs, opened up the game, defense played well,
And
and
the
it was the
read
defense that
option.
won them. It wasn't Cam
The
Newton
read
being...
option with
Cam Newton.
it
Exactly.
makes you
Yeah,
hesitate.
against Arizona, he had two
Yeah.
rushing touchdowns. And so when you talk about the edge, right? So if you look at over the regular season, Carolina, as Jake said, was first in turnover differential. They were plus 20. Denver was, I believe, -4, right? And so you have Denver, who was first in yards allowed per game. They were first against the pass, third against the rush, and fourth against points allowed. So if you look at that, that's a great offense, elite offense against an elite defense. And so where do you think each team has an edge against the other?
Well, one thing that's interesting is that I saw when Carolina was facing the Cardinals is the fact that Carolina has an amazing red zone efficiency.
Yeah.
Because if you think about how many options they have down there, they have Greg Olsen, so they got a big tight end.
And then they've
They
got
got the
two
threat
running
of
backs.
Cam Newton running.
Yeah.
They got Mike Tolbert, who's a all-pro fullback.
The
They got
vulture.
Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can throw, they can run in many forms. So I think it's going to be up to the Broncos to stop them in that red zone, which I think is going to be
Yeah,
crucial.
and Denver has a great red zone defense.
Exactly. So I think
And
that's
so
a big
actually so
matchup.
does Carolina. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's pretty obvious it's Cam Newton just being a dual threat quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers' defensive scheme in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a lot more simple against Peyton Manning. He's much more predictable. You know what Denver wants, but with Cam Newton, every play you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, like
Yeah.
he can make a bad play out of anything.
Yeah,
or
I
a
agree
good
with
play
that.
out of
I agree
anything.
with that.
Yeah, I have the Panthers linebackers as a pretty big edge over
Yeah.
the Denver's linebackers. I
Yeah.
feel like
Even though they're
because-
both very talented.
Yeah, but I feel like you really see like Carolina's linebackers like controlling the game, like they're controlling the
But
the outcome
Denver
of the
may
play.
be more talented
Yeah.
and better pass rush, but they
Exactly.
can cover and call plays.
Exactly,
I agree
and
with that.
like when I hear like Denver's defense, I'm more focused on their secondary and like
Yeah.
Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware.
It's like the front four.
Yeah.
And then where Carolina's defense is mostly anchored by the
Yeah.
middle,
Yeah, the
Denver's like
middle, yeah.
completely the opposite.
And then my advantage for Denver is going back to what Joao said for his X factors is going to be Denver's receivers, and if they're able to like dominate the, like you said, the other string
Yeah.
corners for
Yeah.
Carolina.
What about you?
Exactly. My biggest edge for the Broncos is their receivers versus the Carolina defensive backs. The question is if Peyton Manning can get them the ball enough.
Yeah. I mean, fool can't throw. I mean, it's
ball will get there
the only
eventually.
reason he gets the ball in the NBA is because of HGH. But you know, I'm not one to speak. So my edge, I think, is that I don't think we talk about Carolina's defense enough. Although we say they have a good linebacking core, they're actually like the 6th ranked scoring defense. And so I think that Peyton Manning, if he's able to throw the ball, establish a passing game against there, and I think Denver is very talented running the ball. That's, I think, the key matchup for me because we know that Denver's D against Cam Newton is just going to be a grind the whole game.
Yeah.
Like, but is Denver going to be able to put up points, and are they going to be able to keep the game close, right? I mean, I know Cam Newton against Denver's D, that's not easy for him to score points, but if either team can generate turnovers,
Get
win the
big
turnover
plays.
battle, I definitely think that is the key to the game. And so with that, I kind of want to lead into our rapid fire segment for the Super Bowl. And so let's start it off with you, Joao, and go around the circle. How many catches do you think Demaryius Thomas will have on Josh Norman?
I think you have 3 short ones.
I think he's going to have one.
I'll say 4.
I'll give him 2.
I'll give him 0. Who do you think throws more interceptions, Peyton Manning or Cam Newton?
Oh, definitely Manning.
Manning.
Peyton.
Definitely Manning.
All righty, that was a bad question by me, I guess. Who do you think wins the turnover battle?
Carolina.
Panthers.
Carolina.
Carolina.
Stick with the Panthers.
Also a bad question. Those two kind of collide. Who leads the game in rushing?
I'll go with Stewart.
I'm saying Denver.
Between
Anderson, definitely.
yeah, okay, I'm gonna go CJ Anderson. I think he looked better in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say C.J. Anderson too.
I'm going to say Stewart.
Yeah, okay. And then how many sacks will Denver have on Cam Newton?
I'll go 4.
I'm gonna say 5.
I'm gonna say 3.
I'm gonna say 3-2.
I'm gonna say 3, but they'll get a lot of pressure that he'll have to.
Yeah, I
evade.
think Tom Brady, they sacked him 4 times, and that was with our god awful offensive
Yeah.
line. And then who's gonna win the Super Bowl MVP?
I'm going with Luke Kuechly.
I'm saying Cam Newton.
I'm gonna say Von Miller.
It's like Cam Newton.
I'm saying Cam Newton because the quarterback usually wins.
So that foreshadows your kind of Super Bowl pick. So
Yeah.
let's get into that. Who's gonna win and why? What do you think's the main reason why X team is gonna win?
Well, I'm going to go for Carolina, 31-17, just
Ooh,
because
that's a blowout.
it kind of is. But the thing is, Carolina, you know that they can score. Even
And
against
they
a good
can score
defense,
very fast in the
they
first
can
half.
score fast.
Plus
They-
161.
They're efficient and they're high flying. Meanwhile, Denver needs a lot of things to go right. They need everything to go right, actually, for them to score anything.
Yeah, sure.
They struggled to score against the Patriots.
Yeah.
The Patriots' defense was banged up coming into,
Yeah.
into the playoffs. So I'll go with Carolina winning. by
What
not
about
too
you?
much.
Quickly.
I'm
prediction.
saying Carolina wins 17-10. It's just
Oh wow, that's a grind fest.
yeah, both two great defenses, but the only weak point, Denver's offense is much worse than
Sure.
the Panthers' offense.
Yeah, I got the same score as Joao. I say 31-17 Carolina, and I think the difference is
Interesting.
1, maybe 2 defensive touchdowns by Carolina.
Yeah.
I think I just like I don't see Carolina's.
Yeah, they've been good
Yeah.
defensively.
I'm gonna take the Panthers, 30-20. I think Denver needed really everything to go right against the Patriots for them to win that
Yeah,
game.
and everything. A lot of
And the
things like
Panthers
that.
are potentially an even better team than the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go Denver 27-24 because Denver's 5-2 against top 10 scoring offenses, which means their defense has been elite. And Carolina has only played one team in the regular season that has a top 10 scoring defense, which is Seattle, which was arguably the closest game of the season. So Carolina, Denver. So that's it for our Super Bowl preview. Thank you for joining us for that, but stick around for the NBA. We're going to do a quick little segment change here and a little change with the personnel here. So I want to update you on the rest of the world in sports. And then in the NHL, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Washington Capitals are respectively leading the East and the West with 70 points and 74 points, respectively. And Washington has a huge 11-point lead in the East already through the season. And then in tennis, Novak Djokovic won the Australian Open, defeating Andy Murray 6-1, 7-5, 7-6. That is his third major in a row and his 11th major win in his career, which puts him tied for 5th in all-time majors. So we're witnessing greatness here. And with that, I want to welcome on Dylan. This is the first time on the show. He's pretty excited, big basketball fan. Before we start with him, he's a big Clippers fan. So Clippers, Celtics,
Washington.
Lakers.
that is the bias.
How are you a Lakers and a
Yeah,
Patriots
okay, all
fan?
right.
I
We'll
don't
get
know.
to that
Whatever.
someday.
that,
Someday. So that's the bias before we start. We actually have no Warriors fans here. Sadly, Vishal, JD, both here. Oh, so sad. All right, Joao, so we're halfway through the season. All right, what are your general thoughts on the season so far?
I mean, you have 2 historically dominant teams, and I think that's the main
Pretty
storyline
crazy.
so far.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and they're both in the same conference, which makes it interesting because I think in the end the NBA Finals is going to be the Western Conference
Exactly.
Finals.
Yeah.
I mean,
Couldn't
I
agree
think they'll
more.
run over any team in the
Whoever
East.
wins the Western Conference Finals.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's going to be the matchup to watch. I think I don't think it'll draw higher ratings in the finals
Yeah.
because finals will include
And-
all the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like
those
that.
definitely gonna be the 2 best teams.
I definitely think it's going to be a better group
It's
of games.
going to be a historic, I
Yeah,
think, in my
definitely.
opinion, like maybe the highest regular season 2 wins,
Mm-hmm.
2 win totals combined out of 2 teams, I definitely think. And we'll get to our segment. We have a
Yeah.
segment just for those 2 on that.
Yeah. Well, last season we saw that the West was just so much better than the East.
Yeah.
But I think this season we're actually seeing the opposite. West is very, very top heavy.
Yeah.
And the East looks a little more
Spread
balanced.
out, it's
and
closer.
spread out
If you
and
like
closer,
take a look at the standings here. Indiana, who's the current 8th seed, they're 10.5 games behind Cleveland. And you look in the West, Portland is 21.5 games
Yeah.
behind the
That's
Warriors,
ridiculous.
which is
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, I actually my interesting thought before is same as Josh's. The Eastern Conference, actually, all 8 of their if the playoffs were to start today, all 8 of their teams are above 500.
Yeah.
Where the Western Conference, I think the Portland is their 8th seed, and they're actually a
3
game
games.
or 2, 3 games below 500.
And
So-
Houston is 500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's something that coming into the regular season I didn't think was going to happen. I thought you were
Yeah.
going to have 3 or 4 teams in the what Eastern Conference under 500.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I really like. I think it's really interesting on how the East, there are 3 different levels. On basically, they're the 2 top teams. There are some middle teams, and then the below teams, which are a lot of them are even under 500. And
So it's
how,
like 3 tiers.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
3
yeah.
tiers.
So and by top 2, it's Cleveland and Toronto, and then you think there's another tier?
No, I was talking about the West.
Oh, in the West.
Yeah,
okay,
in the
okay.
Western
Oh
Conference.
yeah,
Oh,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. And then, so I have 2 like kind of surprising facts. David Blatt, so he got fired, right?
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue now coaching the All-Star game, which is awful. He's coached like
Can't
4
believe
games.
it.
I cannot
At the
believe
time
that.
he was named, he
That's-
coached like 2 games.
Yeah.
All right, so David Blatt is the only coach in NBA history to get fired while in first place of a conference, which is pretty crazy.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why would that
Why
have
would
ever happen
anyone-
before?
yeah,
Like,
Why would you fire someone
normally
in
people are
first
pretty
place?
happy when they're in
Yeah.
first place.
Yeah,
of their
and then
conference.
also if you look at the standings, I think kind of East versus West for me, that was kind of like a big thing I looked at. So in the West, it's a lot more kind of scoring oriented besides the Spurs, who have an incredible defensive rating. So if you look at the top 4 teams in the Western Conference, they all average over 104 points a game. So if you want to stay in the West and try and be elite in the West, you got to score the ball.
Yeah.
And in the East, you look at the top 4 teams. Actually, it just switched around. I printed the standings before the games today, but on here it's Cleveland, Toronto, Miami, and the Hawks, who actually could be kind of the top 4 teams at the end of the season.
Yeah.
That's a good representation of what it is. All of them actually allow under 100 points a game. So it's more defensively oriented in the East. I thought that was a pretty cool stat. And so, with you guys, who are your biggest disappointments of the season so far?
Well, in terms of players, I'd say Ty Lawson.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of suspected he wouldn't do well, but I didn't think he'd be anywhere near
like the
this
reason
bad.
why
Yeah.
they're losing.
I
Yeah.
mean, problem is that he doesn't add anything to the team. I mean, he can drive.
Oh, he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
He's on,
but
he doesn't start.
Can't play
anywhere, does he?
defense, not
No.
shooting
Beverly.
well. He got benched, right? Patrick Beverly, who
Definitely,
actually
yeah.
I think Patrick Beverly is a pretty good
Yeah.
fit for the team.
Yeah.
You know, he plays defense, takes threes. That's all he
Yeah.
has to do.
What about you?
Well, same with me, Ty Lawson. He's career low in free throw percentage, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage,
Yeah.
and average points,
Yeah.
and average assists. So
He's struggling.
I
dude.
don't understand.
And
I really
Harden's been playing well. He's been passing the ball. I think seven assists a game. And so for you two, I want to save your biggest disappointments for our next segment, which is our rapid fire round, which is our midseason NBA awards. And so I want to start it off with you, Joab. Who's been the best non-Warriors and non-Spurs team in the NBA so
Oh,
far?
definitely OKC.
definitely okay.
Yeah, Oklahoma City for me.
The Thunder.
I'm gonna have to say Thunder.
Yeah, you wanted to say the Clippers
I
so
want to,
badly.
but yeah.
Yeah, but people are punching staff members. But yeah, it's all good. Who's your biggest surprise player or team so far?
I'll go with the Raptors as a big surprise team. You know, dominant team right now.
For me, it's the Celtics.
For me, it's the Knicks. I thought that would be pretty terrible.
I'll say the Celtics too.
I thought Portland because they blew up their whole team in the
Yeah.
offseason and they came back pretty strong.
Yeah, and they're still
yeah.
the A seed right now.
Yeah.
Right there. That's a really good point. Who's the biggest disappointment player or team this season?
Well, in terms of team, I'd say the Rockets. You know, continuing to Ty Lawson, everybody thought they would be really good.
Yeah.
Biggest disappointment team is New Orleans.
For me, it's New Orleans, but I think also the Bucks. I really thought they were going to be
Yeah.
good. They're very
I
talented.
had high hopes.
They're very talented, but they've been awful this year.
I'm gonna say the Wizards. I did not expect them to be like 4 or 5 games below 500.
Yeah, I agree with them.
Everyone thought they were
behind
gonna
the
be.
Hornets, the Knicks.
Yeah, everyone was
10
thinking
seed.
them they were gonna go far in the playoffs.
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
Yeah, I have to go with New Orleans because they're just very terrible in the beginning of the season.
A lot of
dropping,
people thought
like,
they
all
could.
of their games.
A lot of
yeah.
people thought they could squeak into like the 8th seed, but right now they're like close to the lottery. They're
Yeah.
18
Yeah.
and
It's crazy.
29. They're pretty terrible this year. Who's the best in the East?
Oh, definitely Cavaliers.
Cavs.
Cleveland.
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 All right, that's all Cleveland. And who's the best in the West?
I'll go Warriors.
I'm gonna say Spurs.
I'm gonna go Warriors.
Warriors.
I have to go Warriors.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
a toss-up between there, and we got a little preview of that,
Yeah.
but Tim Duncan wasn't playing.
Yeah, it was-
You
Tim
know?
Duncan doesn't make up
Yeah,
that
yeah,
many
no,
points.
they got-
Sorry.
Yeah,
They
but
got
they
destroyed.
didn't play their usual rotation.
Yeah, they did not.
No, it's,
yeah,
it
they did
was
not.
different. Popovich loves to
Okay.
mess with the
Maybe it's
system.
some giant scheme. I just
Who's your MVP so far?
Oh, definitely Steph.
It's Steph.
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 Yeah, Dylan wanted to say Chris Paul.
did.
Just,
Ah,
just
no.
a waiver before the show. Rookie of the year.
I want to say Russell, but it has to be Karl Anthony Towns.
Carl Anthony Towns.
D'Angelo Russell's awful.
Yeah.
Carl Anthony Towns.
Towns almost averaging a double-double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say Porzingis. I mean, it seemed like he was gonna be a draft bust, but
Yeah.
I mean, he turned out very well. He's putting up great defensive stats. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the eyes of expectations minus reality, Porzingis is beating everyone. You
Yeah.
had the kid,
Exactly.
the kid who was crying
Yeah.
when they picked him.
He's a monster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's,
His
he's good.
putbacks?
He's very good.
Putbacks.
He's,
Yeah,
very,
all the
he's a
putbacks.
very
Crazy.
skilled player.
Yeah.
And
Disgusting,
he
yeah.
reminds me of Dirk when he was young.
Yeah.
What about you for most improved player?
I'm going to go Draymond Green. He's
Sure.
averaging 7.3 assists as a
It's
power forward, which
ridiculous.
is stupid.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Will Barton.
I'm gonna go CJ McCollum.
I'm gonna say CJ McCollum too.
I'm gonna have to go with Jay Crowder. I mean, he's a big reason why the Celtics are doing so well. He's scoring well. He's putting up steals and
Yeah.
blocks. Yeah, he's doing
Defensively,
really
he was
well.
always
Yeah.
very sound. I
Yeah,
remember
and now
last
he's
year,
he's
and
starting
now
to
he's
score.
starting
Now
to
he's
shoot the ball at a high,
training
high
the
level.
threes while
Yeah,
boom,
yeah.
boom, boom. All right, now to the big segment,
Yeah.
the two big guns. We have the Dubs and the Spurs. What? So 44-4 and 48, and 40 and 8. That's pretty ridiculous. By the way, Golden State's 22-0 at home. The Spurs are 26-0 at home. That's pretty crazy. And so, are there any teams besides each other who are going to take them down?
I think only OKC, and I think OKC is
That's
kind of a
only if they
decent-
shoot the lights out.
Yeah.
They're, like
They're-
Russell
they're
Westbrook's
like
going to have to
a-
average
that's
like a
hot.
significant
That's like-
triple-double,
yeah.
and KD's going to have
That's
to
also, I was also gonna say OKC,
They
and
do
it's gonna
have-
take a 40-point game from Durant and a 25 to 30-point game from Russell Westbrook.
And
Look at every
also
game.
Yeah,
contributions from Serge defensively.
yeah, and
they're
Enes
gonna
Kanter
need-
coming off
yeah,
the bench
yeah.
and
for like
tearing it up.
25
yeah,
and 13
yeah,
or something
it's
like
gonna
that.
take something significant.
Well, I see three teams that could maybe take them down
they play well and the
If they
Warriors play
play
bad.
well, and if they all stay healthy, and that's OKC, the Raptors, and the Cavs. I think the Raptors can keep.
They played very well against them both
high
times.
energy.
Yeah.
Very, very high energy
And,
with DeRozan and Kyle Lowry.
I would
I def-
agree with you with Cleveland. I would switch the Raptors and maybe a fully healthy Clippers team.
Yeah, oh, maybe.
I was
yeah.
actually just going to add something about the Clippers. If you look past what happened in the second round for the past 2 years, they did beat the Warriors 2 years ago, and the
Last
past
year, they beat
playoffs,
the Spurs.
they beat the Spurs
Yeah.
in 7 games.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Fair
And
They
they
play.
have
choked
beat
against
them.
the Rockets. You know, they had
okay,
the,
we don't need to go into that
They're playing well against the
because
Rockets.
this is a Dubs and Spurs
Yeah.
type thing. But yeah, it happens, you know.
And I think that that if it's gonna come down to the Warriors and the Spurs, so if you guys had to pick a series right now, quickly, who would you take, Warriors or Spurs?
Spurs.
Warriors.
Warriors.
I gotta go Warriors. That's 3-2 Warriors. So thank you guys for tuning in for our midseason awards for basketball. Hope you enjoyed our preview for football. Most of us think the Panthers are gonna win, but there's a few smart cookies who think Denver's gonna win. So thank you guys
Funny.
again, and we
That's
hope
funny.
to see you for an 11th episode.
I just don't understand.